The NBA preseason is finally here, and for Boston Celtics fans, that means one thing. We've made it. No more surviving off quotes from training camp, dissecting every player interview like it's Game 7. Now we get real basketball. Well, preseason basketball, but still, it's something tangible. Tonight, the Celtics face off against the Memphis Grizzlies, though Ja Morant won't be suiting up. Still, the anticipation is real, and this game brings the first opportunity to stop speculating and start watching. One of the biggest storylines heading into the preseason revolves around Anthony Simons. A lot has been said about his renewed focus on defense, especially after comments that basically boiled down to, "I'm ready to start trying." That's not exactly the kind of statement that inspires immediate confidence, considering defense at this level isn't just about effort. It's about understanding the schemes, communication, and consistency. Still, if Simons is serious and actually puts that into practice, that could be a huge development, not just for the Celtics' depth, but for Simons' own career trajectory. Let's be real. No one is penciling in Anthony Simons for an all-defensive team. Not first, second, or third. That's not going to happen. But if he can go from being a liability on that end to at least neutral, maybe even slightly positive, that changes things. That raises his value, it raises his ceiling, and it makes him a more legitimate two-way threat. This is especially relevant with Simons entering a contract year. If he can prove he's more than just a scorer, that he can defend his position and contribute to team schemes, then the cash registers across the league will start ringing. A guy who can shoot, create, and defend even moderately well in the NBA, that's worth serious money. But here's the twist. If Simons does too well this year, he may be pricing himself out of Boston's plans. That's the catch. 22 for Celtics fans who like his potential. A breakout season likely means other teams come calling with big offers, while a more moderate showing could leave the door open for Boston to keep him on a friendlier deal. Either way, preseason games like tonight's matter more than people might think. They're not just tune-ups. They're additions. Another area worth watching closely is the big man rotation. There's a real opportunity for someone to step up and solidify a role, especially with some uncertainty around Kristaps Porzingis' long-term health and Al Horford's minutes management. Nikola Quetta, the Portuguese prince, seems like he'll get the first look. There's optimism around his Eurobasket performance, where he faced legit NBA talent like JOKIĆ and held his own. But European basketball and the NBA are very different animals. The question is, can Quetta translate that performance into NBA minutes? Can he understand defensive rotations, switch responsibilities, and keep pace with the Celtics' fast-moving, switch-heavy scheme? Boston has made it clear in camp. This team wants to run. They've been calling basketball a track sport, emphasizing pace and effort. So now the spotlight's on guys like Quetta. Can he hang? Can he be where he needs to be when it matters? The leash might not be long. Mistakes in preseason are one thing, but come regular season, Coach Joe Mazzulla will need reliable options. If Quetta doesn't seize the opportunity, someone else will. And that brings us to the next question. Who's next in line? Will Chris Boucher get some run at the 5? He's a bit undersized for the position, but his shooting and mobility might make him a serviceable small ball option in certain matchups. The Celtics are desperate for spacing from their bigs, and if Boucher can knock down shots consistently while holding his own on defense for short stints, he might carve out a meaningful role. But again, that's a big if. Then there's the conversation around the starting 4 spot. This might be one of the most intriguing battles in camp. Will it be Boucher again? Will Oshie Brissett make a push? What about someone like Jordan Walsh, a young, high-upside wing who's been telling anyone who'll listen that he's now a legit three-point sniper? There's definitely a lot of hype around Walsh, and with good reason. He's young, athletic, and he's got a frame that could eventually make him a solid defender across multiple positions. Comparisons have been floating around between Walsh and Baylor Shireman, who's a couple of years older. Walsh just turned 21 and still has room to grow, whereas Shireman, at 25, might already be close to what he's going to be. If you're betting on long-term development, Walsh is the better bet, and that might earn him some early looks in the rotation. especially if the Celtics want to experiment a bit in the preseason and get a sense of what they've really got. But it's not just about the youth movement. There's a real chance that someone like Xavier Tillman makes his case, too. The vibes around Tillman have been positive, but you have to read between the lines. He's talked about his knee feeling better and that the swelling has gone down, not that it's gone away. That distinction matters. The Celtics need durability, not just potential. If Tillman's not fully healthy, it could open the door for someone else to climb the depth chart. Preseason is where all of this starts to shake out. The Celtics have a lot of questions to answer. How real is Simon's defensive commitment? Who's stepping up in the front court? Can someone like Jordan Walsh steal minutes with energy and shot-making? What about role players like Peyton Pritchard, who's always fighting to prove he deserves a regular spot in the rotation? Tonight might only be the preseason, but for fringe players and guys on the rise, these games are absolutely critical. Everyone's trying to leave an impression, not just on the coaching staff, but on the league as a whole. These early games are where rotation battles are won or lost. They're where confidence starts to build or crack. And of course, with Memphis down Ja Morant, Brandon Clark, and others, it opens up a little more opportunity for Boston's young guys to shine. But that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. Memphis plays tough, and even their preseason squads are physical. We'll get to see how Boston's pace-heavy philosophy holds up against a team that can punch back. If guys like Quetta or Boucher can't hold their own physically, that will show up real quick. And if Simons is still getting back cut and blown by on defense, it's going to be obvious, even in a preseason setting. So while we're not going to see the full 35-minute outings from the starters, expect to get a real taste of what this team is trying to build. Starters might get around 15 to 18 minutes, unless Coach Joe goes full mad scientist and decides to really test things out. Either way, this is our first real glimpse of Celtics basketball in action. And for a fan base that's been living off media quotes and scrimmage footage, that's more than enough reason to be excited. While the Celtics are gearing up for their preseason opener, it's impossible not to glance around the league and notice some of the storylines already taking shape, and some of the drama that could ripple through the Eastern Conference. One of the biggest bombshells to land right before tip-off was the news that Giannis Antetokounmpo had serious interest in leaving Milwaukee, and not just hypothetically. According to recent reports, the New York Knicks were not only on his radar, but there were legitimate trade talks between the Knicks and Bucks over the offseason. That's not a rumor anymore. That's confirmed interest and actual front office discussions. Now, think about that for a second. The Bucks reportedly considered moving Giannis. The Knicks explored what it would take. That's huge. That's the kind of information that doesn't just disappear quietly. If those talks reached the level where names were being exchanged, and reports suggest that stars like Karl-Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby were floated, that can shake up a locker room. That's the type of off-season baggage that shows up in chemistry, in energy, in the way a team carries itself early in the season. And we've seen it before. When teams go into a year with unresolved questions hanging over their core, things can get sideways fast. A slow start, a couple of bad shooting nights, and suddenly players start wondering how real the commitment is from the front office. If you're someone like KT and you know your name was in trade discussions for Giannis, it's hard to fully buy in when the season tips off. And even if the Knicks front office was transparent and communicated with those players, it's still a difficult mental shift to accept that you were potentially on your way out just a few months ago. For a Celtics team that figures to be in the mix between the 5th and 8th seed range, turmoil in places like Milwaukee and New York could become a major factor. You don't need those teams to completely fall apart. You just need a little chaos, a little underperformance to open up opportunities. And Milwaukee in particular looks vulnerable. With Doc Rivers now coaching the Bucks and already making declarations about Kevin Porter Jr. being the starting point guard no matter how he plays, it raises some eyebrows. That's not just confidence in a player. That's a message to the rest of the roster, and it's not always received the way a coach hopes. If the Bucks stumble early, the pressure mounts. Giannis may have stayed quiet this summer, but if he sees a team that's regressing, what's stopping him from reigniting those trade rumors? Houston has been rumored as a potential suitor. They've got the picks, the young talent, and the cap space to make something happen. especially with Fred VanVleet on a contract that could be moved in a deal of that magnitude. The Rockets have been stockpiling assets for a move like this. If things in Milwaukee go sideways, it's going to be loud. And the Celtics will be watching, not just because of standings implications, but because it could alter the entire balance of the East. The Knicks are a little different. Even with internal drama, they've got enough talent and structure to stay relevant. But if vibes get weird, or if Julius Randle starts slow and tensions build, things could crack around the edges. Josh Hart already thinks he should be starting, and if those minutes don't come early, that could snowball. As always, winning masks dysfunction, but a couple of close losses or road trip struggles, and the whispers start again. That's what makes this moment in the calendar so intriguing. Nothing has happened yet, but the fuse is already lit in a few different places. Back in Boston, things are clearer, at least for now. The roster might be unsettled in terms of rotations, but the vibes are strong. Training camp has been loud and fast-paced, with a clear message being repeated over and over. This team wants to run. This team wants to defend. And this team wants to outwork everybody. That kind of culture matters, especially when you're trying to build a contender from a roster that includes new pieces, young players with something to prove, and veterans who know the window doesn't stay open forever. It also means there's no time for passengers. If someone isn't keeping up, whether it's Simons on the defensive end or one of the bigs missing rotations, their minutes are going to vanish quickly. That's why this preseason isn't just about fine-tuning. It's about survival. These guys are auditioning every second they're on the court. And for the young players in particular, Jordan Walsh, Hugo Gonzalez, maybe even Luka Garza, this is their best shot to force the coaching staff into tough decisions. Jordan Walsh, in particular, is fascinating. Still only 21, he's been hyping up his shot improvement all offseason, claiming he's now a reliable three-point threat. If that's true, and he combines that with his length, energy, and defensive instincts, he becomes a real rotation candidate. Especially if someone like Oshie Brissett or even Sam Hauser struggles to start the season, Walsh could slip in and become a guy you just can't take off the court. Youth matters, but so does energy, and Walsh brings both. And don't forget, the Celtics have a packed preseason schedule to test all of this. After the game against Memphis, they'll head north to face the Toronto Raptors, and then they finally get a home preseason game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's 3 games in less than a week. It's going to be a crash course for everyone trying to earn minutes. We'll see who adapts quickly, who's picking up defensive schemes, and who's still a step behind. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Whispers are echoing through the NBA, and if early reports prove true, the Boston Celtics are on the verge of executing a blockbuster move that could shake the league to its core. According to multiple insider sources, NIKOLA JOKIĆ, the 2-time MVP and Denver Nuggets superstar, has reportedly agreed to a 3-year deal with Boston, a development that has left fans and analysts alike buzzing with speculation. While nothing is official yet, the mere suggestion of Jokic in Celtics green has sent social media into a frenzy, with highlights of his jaw-dropping passes and versatile scoring being reposted endlessly as fans imagine the possibilities. If finalized, this would represent one of the most seismic shifts in recent NBA history. Jokic, known for his unmatched court vision, smooth shooting touch, and ability to control games from the center position, could transform the Celtics' offensive identity. Imagine Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown benefiting from the Serbian star's playmaking, while Boston's young core and established veterans suddenly find themselves in the mix for championship contention in a way that seemed tantalizingly close, yet still just out of reach in recent seasons. The idea of a Jokic-powered Celtics team has analysts debating everything from spacing to defensive matchups, and speculation about how coach Joe Mazzulla might integrate such a unique talent is rampant. Of course, the rumor raises as many questions as it does excitement. How would the Celtics accommodate Jokic's presence within the current roster? Could Boston's style adapt to a player whose genius often lies in dictating tempo and manipulating defenses in ways few others can? And how would this affect the broader landscape of the Eastern Conference, with the Milwaukee Bucks, Philadelphia 76ers, and Miami Heat all suddenly facing a juggernaut they may not have anticipated. While insiders caution that the deal is far from sealed, the prospect alone has fans clamoring for an announcement, trading theories and mock lineups in forums and social media threads. For now, the NBA world watches with bated breath, imagining the possibilities of Celtics team built around one of the most cerebral and unconventional superstars of the modern era. If NIKOLA JOKIĆ truly dons green, Boston could very well be setting the stage for a new dynasty, or at least a season of relentless intrigue and high-octane basketball drama. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.